What's up, everybody? Welcome to Football at the Bar. We're your host. My name is TA.
And this is G Money.
And we're about to talk some football. So, G.
Yo.
This is our second episode. The first one was phenomenal. I'm fired up being here with you, talking this game, having a drink, and having some fun doing it.
Yeah.
So, how was the week?
I mean, it was a mixed bag. I mean, strangely enough, this week was a little bit pedestrian in terms of the overall output of the games. Mm-hmm. But there's a couple of things that I think we can extract from it that are interesting.
Extract, without a doubt. I just want to talk about where we're at in the season. You know, The season goes by so quickly, and it's really, I want to extract, using your big word, your SAT word. I want to extract out where we're at right now. So, with that being said,
hey,
what you drinking on today?
Well, you know, I got to stay on my actually, today is some doers.
Some doers. Okay, you're getting a little bougie, a little bit.
What you mean a little? I'm 100% bougie over here. But I love it, man. You know, this old man drink has something to it. It just gives me a little, boost.
Old man drink. I'm drinking my VSOP.
See, now look at you. Here. Okay, booze to booze there.
Booze to booze.
There it is.
Yeah, let's talk some football. And the first question I got for you is, as we are almost a quarter way through the season, what are your top 5 teams? How do you rank them?
Okay, so that's a good question. I mean, you know, we all watch all of the typical sports newsreels. I'm going to start from my number 1, actually. Mm-hmm. And my number 1, actually, and I hate to say this because I detest this team with a passion, but my number 1 is the Kansas City Chiefs. Because reigning and defending, they're not necessarily clicking on all cylinders, but they just have a cadence and the way that they march down the field that, you know, it's like they're gonna win. So it's hard to fight against Kelsey and Mahomes and them boys. It's like, damn them. The Raider fan of me is like, I get enraged, but that's number 1 for sure. Then I would say number 2 for me would be the 49ers. I think that all phases of the game, they really are just hitting on all cylinders, and their defense is not even, let's say, in full rhythm yet. Their offense is, but they don't really have a weakness. Then I would have to say, arguably, the next undeniable person or team would be Philly. So Philly, for the similar reasons to what I would say with the 49ers. Then, you know, I'm going to have to say, I probably would have to say number 3 would be
number 4.
Or I'm sorry, number 4. Number 4 would be Buffalo.
Fair.
And number 5, in my estimation, would be Miami. I don't think that Miami can go from, 70 points to losing to there and just whack. So, granted, there are a lot of teams that could be, shuffled in there, but I still feel like Miami is them dudes. They kind of got a little sloppy in that game that we saw.
Well, that's pretty much the consensus nationwide throughout all the media, those 5 teams. I have to disagree with you. I can't put Kansas City number 1 when we have two teams that are 4-0, and put Kansas City above them. I think that's going a little bit too far. And I understand Mahomes, as you know, is the greatest football player to ever touch a football.
You're not going to bend my arm on that one. I mean, I didn't want to say that with any joy, but okay.
So here's my top 5. I like San Francisco being number 1. Number 2, I like Kansas City Chiefs and with Mahomes, because again, exactly what you're saying. This is a team that's built to win. This is a team that knows how to win. Mm-hmm. So I truly appreciate that about them. The Eagles, and what Jalen Hurts is doing the same exact thing. They are building up to the ability to win games no matter what. Now, they haven't looked great over the past 4 weeks, but they for damn sure haven't looked bad. You're not 4-0 and you don't know what you're doing. You're not playing well.
Agreed.
But my biggest challenge with the national rankings, I mean, I was just looking at the Fox rankings of the teams, and they put the Bills number 2 behind San Francisco. And this kind of blows my mind. Now, the Bills lost to the New York Jets without their quarterback. and who replaced him was one of the worst quarterbacks we've ever seen in the NFL history. And they lost to that team. The only team that Kansas City lost to was to the Detroit Lions, who is consistently 10th, 11th, 12th best team in the NFL. And they lost to them on their very first game of the season without two of their three best players. So the thought process to put the Bills above the Chiefs is just literally tomfoolery to me. And what it is a lot of people in the media want to create some type of messiah. You know, we saw that last year with Joe Burrow. When Joe Burrow happened to luckily beat Mahomes with some fluke calls towards the end of the game, and Mahomes playing one of his worst games in the playoffs, so they went to the Super Bowl. And now Joe Burrow's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and now he's rivaling, if not better than Mahomes, smoking crack cocaine. Then you have at the beginning of this season, what's our guy that plays for the Jaguars?
Oh, you talking about Trevor Lawrence?
Trevor Lawrence. Oh, Trevor Lawrence is a great Trevor Lawrence. We all see he has a long way to go, and they were trying to put him in that upper echelon. And it seems like now, once again, just like they did 2 years ago, my man has one good game. What's the quarterback for the Bills?
Oh, you talking about Josh Allen?
Josh Allen.
I mean, look. The Bills are, to me, to give an analogy to the Clippers, right? They are the Clippers of the NFL. They are always sexy. They always got all the players, and on paper, they are supposed to be run rockshot over the league. However, when the rubber meets the road and the playoffs come, they booty hole gets tight.
Booty hole gets tight.
And they do, like, the Clippers turn into cloppers, and the Bills turn into the cloppers. So there it is. And so I never really get too high or too low on them. But I mean, it's hard to deny that, yes, Josh Allen performed well against let's say a pedestrian defense. The whole reason why everybody was threatened to see that they were going to lose that game is because they knew that the Miami offense was so potent that it was going to essentially just outlast them. I mean, I think they even beat them twice last year just off of the fact that Cheetah and Waddle were ridiculous. Now, what we saw is that their defense is just real, and they kind of were ready for that game, and he performed. But he performed against an average defense at best. You know, Ramsey is not even back
but Fangio's there. And so Fangio was supposed to be that missing link in terms of their defense. But I don't think it was just that. I think when you beat and you stomp somebody by 50 points and you score 70 points, you have an air of, we are the shit. And I think they spent the entire week preparing for this game as we are the shit. We just almost broke a record, and that we're going to be able to go do that to anybody. And I just think that was, unfortunately, with the coach. The coach didn't sit over here and head that off and say, hey, just because we beat a shitty team by 50 points doesn't make us winning the Super Bowl. That was not the Super Bowl. He should have addressed it early, and he didn't. I have a whole lot of respect for their coach. He's done a lot of great things, a young talent that's coming up, great mind, brilliant mind. But what he did not do was sit over here and snatch them up very quickly and say, hey, we haven't won anything. We just beat a bad team very badly. And so they went into that game overestimating themselves and underestimating their opponent. And what happens is right after you finish beating a bad team, you get shellacked by a good team. But I do believe that Miami has something. So it's going to be interesting at the end of the year.
They need to do some growing up.
What's real nice is, or not nice, but what's real going to be great is this first game was in Buffalo during the spring or during the fall time. It's unfortunately not reversed, where they went to Miami first and then had to go down to Buffalo. So that's going to make it tough for Buffalo to beat them later on in the year. But I still think that we are all sleeping on Jalen Hurts. Again, Jalen Hurts isn't playing phenomenal. He's not on that MVP level, but he's doing what needs to be done to win, and that team is built the right way.
I mean, okay, so I don't disagree with the whole Jalen Hurts aspect. I think that, you know what, I'll even pose it to you in this way, because Jalen Hurts, to me, falls into a topic as it relates to quarterbacks. So there has been just looking at the canvas of the week, right? There has been this overarching understanding that everybody knows is that, you need to have a great quarterback in order to be successful. And the great quarterbacks that we know of are doing what they are supposed to do.
Mhm.
But, when you start to see those kind of like middle of the road, or what you may consider to be middle of the road teams that should push through to the next level, that there are other aspects of their team that are weak. So outside of the quarterbacks, like what aspect of an offense and or a given defense, or a team rather, that you feel is like most mission critical to success?
I think when you look at all great teams in the history of the NFL, all of them usually have a good quarterback, but we're not talking about quarterback, because there's one great quarterback and you don't have this component, which is imperative to success, which are the trenches. The offensive line has to be good.
Hey,
The
man, say it
defensive
again.
line has to be good.
Yeah.
And so the one beautiful thing about Philly, why I believe that they should be ranked higher than the Bills, is because they have an absolutely stalwart, top-notch, top in the NFL offensive line. And hey, what's that rookie that they just got that fell down the draft? What's his name?
Oh, you talking about You talking about the defensive tackle that the Raiders should have got?
The defensive tackle that the Raiders should have got, but they got a dude with a broke leg.
Yeah.
The dude from Georgia, they got in trouble for racing, and the kid got killed.
But we know what we're talking about. Yeah.
So this dude sits over here as number one in his position in the whole NFL.
Okay.
And so he's solidified that defensive line, even though they've lost some players in free agency. And so you've kept those two components extremely strong, which enables them to not be performing at their very highest levels and still win games. See, the reality is great teams are going to win, right?
Yeah.
But great teams also build and crescendo till the end of the season where they're playing at their very best. That's how you get to a Super Bowl. It doesn't matter what you do in the first quarter of the season. It matters what you're doing and where your team is at the last quarter of the season as you're transitioning into the playoffs and getting ready for that Super Bowl run. That's why I really love how Philadelphia is doing right now. They've revamped some auxiliary and some ancillary positions like the running back position.
Swift is balling right now.
Swift is playing extremely well.
For real.
And everything will begin to click even more efficiently and smoothly with the other aspects of it. But they're still winning. And as long as they continue to win, this has been the Mahomes recipe and the Chiefs recipe for the past several years, is that they stay in the game, they stay winning, and then they catch fire at the right time. That's why they've been to 4 or 5 championships all at once.
Yeah, when I hear you even talking about the line play, because I think that that's a very valid point. It's like I almost think back to that song that we used to hear back in the day from the Fat Boys. It was like, the Fat Boys are back, and that will never be whack. Well,
for you youngins, you don't know nothing about that. I would encourage you to go Google who the Fat Boys are.
Go look it up.
Great group.
Well, guess what? You know what? I've seen some Fat Boys that is whack as hell up in here. Okay, I hate to call out names, but I'm gonna say one on a Raiders defensive line, Dylan Parham. Get it together, brother. Okay, because I'm so sick of seeing these offensive lines that are just literally dog meat, to where it's like, okay, guys are literally having a defensive lineman are having Olay sessions. There's not even, 3-step drop, 3 seconds, and boom, I can let the ball away. And then you can judge the quarterback off of the fact that he can't make a read. It's like ready, set, hike. Oh, I got a free shot. I mean, we've seen that through the course of every offensive line or for every, let's say, proverbial bad team. So bad teams, we can look at the Bengals. We can look at my Raiders. I mean,
we can look at the Giants.
We
just saw yesterday the Giants sitting here, and
you made me drink on that
one. Right, you had to drink on that
one.
When the Giants sit over here and are completely debilitated on their line, on their front line, and their defensive line not playing like they did last year, they completely got just absolutely drugged, because you have to have that fortified to sit over and succeed in the league. If you don't, then the people that do. So if you don't have a strong offensive line and you're playing against a team that has a strong defensive line, you're going to get ran through.
Yes.
If you don't have if your defensive line who's weak is playing against a strong offensive line, you're not going to be able to get to the quarterback and you're not going to have any success. And so that's what you saw exactly on Monday Night Football.
Yes.
When the Giants were playing and they got destroyed.
Yes, they did get destroyed. And we're going to touch a little bit more on Monday night. But, you know, what the games that I will talk about my Raiders a little bit more. But the first one that I really, I guess, comes to mind is the Steelers. I'm seeing that the Steelers' offensive line is trash right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you want to like blame the offensive coordinator, it's like their offensive line, the Bengals offensive line, the Raiders offensive line. It's like, you know, you can have and spend all this money for skill position guys, running backs, receivers, tight ends, what have you. But if you can't literally have your quarterback have a 3 to 4 second window to just think and watch, then you have failed before you even started. You might as well just say, okay, we ain't even going to play. Just go ahead and let's just trade jerseys and take this L and, you know, just mark me down for an L. Because that's what it looks like. They just dog me out there. And I know that defensive lines have a lot of a part to play in that. But I think that I've come to realize is that with the winning teams, the San Francisco's, the Eagles, even, dare I say, the Cowboys, which, you know, they kind of fall into that Clipper zone to me.
Mm-hmm.
But all of them, they have superior line play that makes everything go.
They called them the big uglies back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But here's where the twist is. It's funny that you mentioned the Cowboys. The Cowboys have always had a tremendous offensive line. But the reality is you still need that quarterback, right? So when you talk about quarterbacks, let's talk very quickly about the three main rookies that have come out. You know, in the first 4 games, what are your thoughts on the 3 main rookies that have come out?
Okay, so I guess I will start with the one that has impressed me the most has been CJ Stroud. That kid is been playing lights out. And I think that it was a perfect scenario. I really was impressed with their draft and the fact that they, you know, got even the linebacker on the other side, but they selected him first. And it just, everything about their team just speaks to success. You know, they have, I think it's this kid's name, Nico Collins is at the wide receiver position. They've got Pierce. They've got a good to, I would say almost, I'll say serviceable to good offensive line, but
when they're healthy,
when they're healthy, but and their defense is solid, and you know he's just reading and reacting, and he's throwing the ball well. So he's playing out of his mind.
But real quick, let me just cut in real quick, because this is when you see the effects of a very good quarterback coming into a team and making a difference. Mm-hmm. Because this has been the laughing stock of the NFL the previous 2 or 3 years.
Oh, for eons.
Not necessarily for eons,
well,
but for the last 2 or 3 years when they had Mills as a quarterback who was average at best. We probably wouldn't even say he's average.
Yeah, but he might sneak a good game in there.
They didn't have somebody that could elevate the people. That and coaching. This is another thing that we forget to talk about is the coaching. They have a brand new coach.
Yeah, we touched on that last week.
What's the coach's name?
Oh man,
he just came from San Francisco. D'Amico Ryans.
D'Amico
Ryans played for them.
Yeah, and he was a Pro Bowl player.
He was a Pro Bowl player, but he was a phenomenal coach for San Francisco as well. So he comes there, and what he's done is he's inspired that team to play above their level.
Yes.
And then when they have a leader on the field, when they have a quarterback that can stand in there and not make turnovers like a Daniel Jones or even like a Josh Allen when he was goofy when he first came into the league. Matter of fact, he was playing the Texans, if you remember that playoff game, and this Jack tried to do a lateral in the middle of the game and threw the game away.
Yeah, it cannot be understated. He doesn't turn the ball.
When you talk about Stroud being so phenomenal, you know, Stroud has thrown for the second most yards in NFL history in the first 4 games. Cam Newton being number 1, him being number 2.
Oh yeah, it's a Star is Born.
And the Colts, who's the old Colts quarterback who retired early?
Peyton Manning?
No, retired early.
I know. Now, this is where you challenging my scotch.
Everybody
but the one who got beat up because his offensive line.
Because he was getting beat up. Because speaking of offensive lines, right? So Stroud is sat up there. But this is what really aggravates me inside. There's this test, this cognitive test that they take before they enter into the draft process called an S2. And this test is supposed to determine who is smart enough to read defenses and all of this shit. And he scored the lowest out of all three. And they said, oh, he might not be smart enough. You know, it's funny how we always hear who's not smart enough. He might not be smart enough to be an NFL quarterback. And our man, who was the number one pick?
We definitely know he's smart.
Who was our number one pick? Who was the number one pick this year?
Gosh, was it Young?
Yes, Bryce Young. Bryce Young. He scored 90 on the S2, so he should be. Now, at the end of the day, this is a physical game. It's a mental game, but even more than that, it's a physical game. You have giant human beings that are more athletic, stronger, faster, and bigger than the average human being. So it doesn't matter how great your mind is, how big your mind is, how well you can do at these tests. What it matters is who's physically strong enough.
Yeah, but it's
the understanding of the game.
I don't disagree with that, but I would also couple that with saying that it is an intellectual capacity and a physical capacity. See, because going back to your original question when you asked me about the three quarterbacks, the ones that are really doing the most successful is Richardson in Indianapolis,
who's a physical
specimen, right? He's basically he's Lamar Jackson-esque because Lamar
Jackson on steroids. He's bigger, stronger, and as fast,
and he's got
Lamar
a gun
Jackson.
arm.
Yes,
and that it's almost like in that Michael Vick kind of vein because he may not necessarily be able to read as many defenses, but his superior athletic talent kind of supersedes everything else.
But that has nothing to do with intellect. He's played 8 college games. This man is doing what he's doing in the NFL off of 8 college games.
Well, then that just means that his talent supersedes all of the other intangibles
so
when you're inferior.
It's not even about how big you are. It really has to do with talent.
Yes. And I would say, but the reason why Young was touted so much is because it was or the emphasis in the draft reel, aside from the fact that he played for Alabama and he was, he played in the most competitive college division, conference, excuse me. But bottom line is that it was his ability to read defenses, react, and be able to deliver the ball on time. And he could do that and escape. So people overlooked the fact that he was little. But guess what? When you got 300-pound behemoths that are running 4.6, hey, bro, you need to do that like about 3 clicks faster, or you need to be big and strong enough to get the hell out of the way to give yourself that extra 3 seconds. And what he doesn't have is that this is where, when in the draft reels, all you scouts out there, you may need to start thinking about, we don't need to get the Doug Flutie type dude. We may need to just say, okay, let me get the guy who's talented, who might be at least 6'1" to 6'3", and north of that, or he can run his ass off, because that is what is going to be successful, especially when you're going to a bad team. Because if you're drafted high, chances are it's a bad team.
No, not chances are, it is a bad team. So when you look at it, he didn't have the physical attributes to be great. And at the end of the day,
he might be good,
I think we're past if he's going to be good. I think what we're looking at is somebody who can hopefully become serviceable, and I really respect the player as a man. I respect him as a man. I respect him as a person. To that level. He's a phenomenal individual.
Absolutely.
But what happens is that Alabama game is a little bit deceptive, kind of just like how it was from Mayfield. Mayfield came out of Oklahoma, a conference that's known for not playing any defense, and he looked like he was a world beater. And then he gets in the NFL with real individuals, with real motherfuckers, and he's average, he's slightly above average. I wouldn't even say slightly above average.
Baker Mayfield was able to read defenses well, and he had a better than serviceable arm.
I think
he
that's
didn't have a gun.
I think that's cap because he didn't read defensive wells, because you don't forget how to read when you come to the NFL.
But going back to what you said about physical attributes. So when you go to the NFL, the problem is that Baker is little. Baker is he
Light
might
in the ass.
they might list him as 6'1", but he's probably like 5'11", soaking wet. You know what I mean? Like he's
platforms on.
Right. So he's that, and he's able to read defenses. But if you are not putting him in the most advantageous scenario, he does not, and you have to have super duper great skill positions around him, which is why you see Baker kind of, let's say, doing well now, because he has
a great team around him. He has a team that's just removed from the Super Bowl.
He has Evans, who's 6'4", and he can just lob it up to him. See, before he was playing with Odell Beckham Jr.
Odell Beckham.
Yeah.
Who was a shell of himself.
Yeah, but ODB is little too, right? So it's like if I don't have let's say 2 or 3 large targets that I can go to, and then you're asking me to essentially be Drew Brees out here. But guess what? Drew Brees had Thomas. Drew Brees had, all these big dudes. He didn't have that when he was with Cleveland, and so he got exposed. And what we've just said about offensive lines and defensive lines is that if you don't have that 3 seconds and you got to try to manufacture another 3 seconds, your booty hole gets tight, and then you start to throw the ball where it shouldn't go, and you were too little. You can't
real quick, before we move past Stroud, I just want to give him his flowers. Stroud has thrown more passing yards than anybody in their first 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, or second. I mean, he's done an absolutely tremendous job.
A star is born. You can tell.
A star is born, without a doubt. And guess what? He's hungry. He works hard. He's ready to go. That S2 test was all bullshit. For those of you that don't know, the S2 was all bullshit. Sit over here and trust your eyes and what your eyes are telling you. But what we can't do is sit over and forget about Richardson.
No, because Richardson is what I was just describing. Richardson is the Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson,
and Cam Newton. If they all made a baby, if they had a menage a trois, made a baby. That's that dude. Yes,
that's that dude.
And so what's so
imagine
exciting,
if he had a number 1 receiver too.
But no, he doesn't. Let's not disrespect Pittman like that. But what he needs to do is just continue to learn the game. We don't got to rush him along, and that's what happened to Cam Newton. They rushed him along because he played well initially and didn't really focus in on his development and allowed him to rely on his physical attributes.
Yes,
his physical attributes.
That's why he ultimately got out of the league, because he got blittied. He got hit too many times. Correct. Because he didn't do what, let's say, a la Steve Young, going back to the old days of the mobile quarterback.
He was one of the very first mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah, but one of the things that was a real testament to Steve was he understood that he needed to master throwing out of the pocket. And I think that Cam just got away with, I have a great defense and I got a gangster in Steve Smith Jr. or Senior, on my team, and I can just get away with not having to do that because I'm basically a linebacker playing quarterback.
But Richardson got an arm.
Yeah, he does.
All he needs to do is refine it. And so that's up to the team to ensure that he keeps his emphasis on refining. And I don't think Cam Newton specifically wanted to focus in on being a pocket quarterback. What we do see with Richardson, even going back to college, is he wanted to focus on being a great quarterback, and then would fall back on his athleticism, would fall back on his physicality,
right, as
he needed to in a particular game.
I agree. And just to close the topic out, and it's interesting that we even bring up, what I guess are now called old guys in Cam Newton, is I would just say that part of his career got cut short because he cut his development short because he won. So when you win doing it a certain style, then you're never forced, like how Michael Vick going to Philly, he was essentially forced to actually become the quarterback that we're referring to.
And they got in his big ass. Yeah, I don't give a fuck how big you is.
Yeah.
When you take the lumps, that shit hurts. And he never developed. To stop getting cracked.
Yeah.
But really, we've talked about these quarterbacks, this rookie class of quarterbacks, and that's the big three, and there are two of the three that are really going to that next level. And literally the future looks great for them. I mean, I'm excited for Richardson. I'm excited for Shroud. I'm hoping for our man from Alabama who's now with Carolina to sit over here in some kind of way that team put a semblance of a team
protection around him.
Not just protection, but also weapons.
Yeah, he needs some weapons.
But really the question is, from your perspective, from the draft, who is your big winner and who is your big loser that wasn't a quarterback?
Okay, so for me, I would say the surprise thus far through week 4 of the big winners would be Puka Nacua.
Oh, very phenomenal, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Who in the hell was going to pick Puka Nacua? Matter of fact, I don't even know where he was drafted, but I know it was late. It was after the primetime hours. He was not on television when
Is it fair to say you got to have some big balls to pick somebody named Puka?
Oh my God. I mean, and you know what? And hats off to the Rams scouting team because, man, or Sean McVay, man, you found a dude. That's a dude right there. And so his ability to understand zone versus man and find the hole and not rely upon speed, but use his physicality or just use leverage in a way to always be available and be an easy target for the quarterback and catch the ball is something that is really impressive. And I just have to say hats off to him. So that to me is
great, phenomenal pick, phenomenal
pick.
And I just to piggyback on that, I cannot wait till we have Puka and Cooper Kupp, who are very similar players that have the same great intangibles, playing together. Yeah. Because it's one thing to sit over and have one of those individuals, and you see what they can do when it's just one of them. Yeah. When you can have both, hey, the Rams could get scary. The Rams
could get scary.
Sneak.
Because you know
into
what?
that at least top 10 in the NFL.
We all saw the stupid numbers that Cooper Kupp put up, but Cooper Kupp is 6'3", and they play him in the slot. And so that means that he is just a nightmare for every offense. And so right now, Puka is playing that role. So imagine if they can alternate, there's a lot of danger there. So, but to stick on the topic, right, who I feel is like been the worst is Tyree motherfucking Wilson.
Of course, we always have to go back to your Raiders.
Yes, we do. Hey, watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. But let me I'm going to get on my guy for a second, okay? How about I haven't heard your name called? You know,
I've heard it called for negative for him not doing shit.
I mean, listen, we got Crosby and a cloud of dust. Because your ass can't get to the quarterback, can't stop the run, can't penetrate, can't do nothing.
We watched that game together.
Where are you?
We watched that game together. We watched
Where are you?
The Chargers Raiders game together. And guess what? His name wasn't called once. Actually, I do believe he did get his first sack or maybe his first hurry. But I don't even know if he got a sack. I think he just got a hurry.
I don't know. I don't even want to give him that.
No.
He wasn't an impact guy. A deaf-blind mute monk would have known that we should have picked this boy from Georgia.
So here's what twisted.
But
is it his fault or is it the organization's fault?
Well, listen, at this juncture, I have to say it's him because regardless, what you need to do is as a player, you need to make your organization right. You need to say, okay, they put faith in me. They picked me. I had these measurables, yada, yada, yada. And I am, 6'4", this, and I'm super strong, and I can do all of this. Well, show me.
So I was a hook.
And
I was a hook before you picked me. Now, because the Raiders picked me, now I need to not be a hook?
Well, look.
Hey, that's on the Raiders. But let me give you my two.
Okay.
And so
I'm about to get emotional.
I know. And I understand, Papa. What I do want to show you is the very one player that's really standing out that's actually breaking records. Always look for that. Players like a Shroud that are breaking records, that means something. That travels, that sits with them, that stays with them throughout their career. The tight end for the Detroit Lions, Laporta, who sat over here and ran or has accumulated more yards than any rookie tight end in the history of the NFL. Either more yards or has more catches than any rookie tight end in the NFL. He is playing absolutely phenomenal. So I want to give him a
Didn't
shout
he have
out.
like he had a big game too.
He had a big game.
I don't know if it was this week
It
or the
wasn't
week,
this
but
week.
it was the week before.
He had a phenomenal
Yeah.
game. And so I love what the GM for Detroit is doing when everybody thought he was a jack. And, he came from the Rams. He's learned a lot under the Rams current GM and went to the Lions, and he became the new GM there, and he's completely turned that team around. And and a part of it is by smart picks that he's doing, like Laporta. Now, a rookie that is not playing at a high level that we all felt and thought that he would was JSM. Jim Jigba.
Oh, for the Seattle.
Seattle.
Yeah, he's a no-show.
It's not quite that he's a no-show. What it is that team's offensive line has been hurt. So they're having to go jumbos and having to have two tight ends to help block, which doesn't allow him to come on into the game.
So there's not enough 3 wide receiver sets.
Correct.
And you know what I would say, that they put Lockett in they play Lockett everywhere,
Correct.
but they put Lockett in the slot a lot. And the whole thing that everybody was hearing was, oh, okay, Jigba in practice, he's in the slot and he's
but don't forget, he got hurt. He broke his
happen.
wrist. He had to have an operation.
Oh,
he's my biggest disappointment because there were so many of us felt that he was going to be able to make a tremendous impact.
A whole bunch
on
of
that
prognosticators
team.
said he was going to be super
unequivocally,
big.
And because he outplayed the very best. He outplayed Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
He outplayed him. He outplayed Olave, and he outplayed what's the cat from the Jets?
Not Wilson?
Yes, he outplayed him on
Word?
that team before he got hurt.
Okay.
So there was tremendous.
It was just high. It was high on him.
Everybody was high on him because of his past production. So I don't put it all on him like he's just a flop. I do believe circumstances have stopped him from flourishing. But that also means that you have the opportunity to buy low on him. You have the opportunity, while everybody's jumping off the bandwagon, guess what you get an opportunity to do is jump on the bandwagon, because the man has too much talent to not win. And as we're about to get into this fantasy segment, you're going to sit over here and be able to get him when people are frustrated that he's not doing.
So let me ask you a question.
As the offensive line for Seattle gets better and as they start incorporating him more. But please go ahead.
Okay, so before we get into the DFS, because that's your wheelhouse, you the guru. I win a couple of pennies, but you the guru, so I'll give you that. But what I will say is, before we get into that, looking at this week 5 that's coming up, like, what are the games that you think are going to be the sexy games? Because how like last week it was, I was hitting them real hard on that Miami Buffalo game. Like, what's the game that everybody should be watching this week? There is one, but I'm gonna see if you're gonna.
Well, when you really look at this, it's going to be KC in Minnesota is like the game, because you have Justin Jefferson in there, you have Mahomes with Kelsey, so that's the real big fun game. Is that going to be that game right there? That's the game that's projected for the most points scored in the.
So you're saying that from just from a fantasy DFS perspective?
But I mean, anytime you can have Mahomes against the number one wide receiver, on both sides. On both teams, you're going to have a phenomenal offensive output. So that is, in my opinion, the very most fun game that we're going to have. What do you think?
If I were to just go and take my fantasy hat and put it away for a second and just say, what is the game that's going to be where, nuts is on the line?
Right.
It's that San Francisco Cowboys game.
Yeah, you ain't lying about that.
So
that's going to tell us a whole lot about the NFC.
It's going to tell me a whole lot about Dak Prescott. It's going to tell me a whole lot of.
Yes.
And to be honest with you, I expect more than expect. I damn near want to guarantee, as Charles Barkley would say, I almost want to guarantee that the 49ers are going to boo-bop them. But Dallas just has just enough talent to where they have traditionally lost games like this, and it's in San Francisco.
But they lose games like this in the playoffs, not traditionally
Well,
in the season. And so what I get what you're saying about Dak. What I'm interested to see is how does Purdy handle Micah Parsons? Because guess what? Purdy can get his shit shoved in.
Mr. Irrelevant is super relevant, and I would say that he has, again, when we talk about complete teams, he has arguably outside of the Eagles, I think that they are probably the number 2 best offensive line in football.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Eagles
are number 1, but they are by far number 2. And Cowboys are number 3. They got Debo. Yeah, when healthy. When healthy, right. I would agree with that. Mm-hmm. And then they got Debo and they got McCaffrey. They got Ayuk, and I mean,
Kittle ain't doing shit. Like, they got Kittle, but it's really matter. McCaffrey, Ayuk, then Debo, then Kittle. But you have a whole complement of individuals that can sit over and get in anybody's ass in any given week.
And that 49ers defense they are thumpers. So
they are thumpers, but sometimes they come in there a little bit soft.
Yeah, but at home, I think they will be up for that game. So to me, I would say for the watching public, I mean, that's not rocket science.
What's that say about Dak if Dak goes into San Francisco and wins? What's that say about Dak?
I would say that you're going to get the Cowboy fandom and the Skip Baylesses of the world to just, basically, freaking orgasm on themselves. Like, they're going to be so freaking happy.
I would love to see it though. I would love to see. I don't want to see that. I want to see Dak step up here.
He can play well, but I don't expect him to win, and I would be extremely disappointed in the 49ers. Like, how do you guys step up to the game? Like, the Cowboys are trying to get where you're at, and you would allow them to come into your house and win? Hell to the no. Like,
well, that's why Dak has to take this personal. That's why Dak has to take this personal.
We'll see.
So with that being said, let's talk about real quick. Let's transition into our fantasy. Your year-long fantasies. How'd your teams do?
Okay, so this is why I had to give.
Did you win?
I won a card, but I lost.
Those other 2 cards tricked?
Yes.
Oh, mine did too. So don't act like you're by yourself.
Okay, so because I had a lot of disappointments. What's the guy? Ford for the Browns let me down. One of them, I went a little Raider ambitious, and I put
No, this is on your season long.
No, not. I'm just saying DFS.
DFS. Okay, so DFS
just
fantasy.
DFS wise. I put in O'Donnell. I put in actually Hill. Hill disappointed me. It just was one of those weeks. But the one that I won on, I actually did something that you say is a no-no, but it worked for me. I put in Stroud, Nico Collins, and then I put the Houston defense in because I knew that the Steelers were dog meat, and I put Pierce in. I think Jacobs.
No, I'm not talking about that one. You showed me a card where you put A-Chain and Mostert. Don't ever do that again.
A-Chain and Mostert.
I thought that was the one that won. But why would I think that? Because A-Chain had a great game.
No, it won the previous week, and so then I rolled with it again, thinking. But I was getting a little ahead of myself because I had to realize they were playing the Bills, and nobody was going to. What was disappointing about that game? I actually expected Mostert to do better. But Mostert wet the bed. He fumbled twice.
Multiple times. Yeah, lost some fumbles.
God, it was disgusting.
How does your regular fantasy do?
I wrecked shop.
Right.
I had Lamar Jackson did well for me. I had Kelsey. I'm a good fantasy drafter. I must say, I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I had Puka in there that I picked up, and Puka did well. So I won in both leagues. I whooped everybody's ass, and I told them about it. I texted them about 100 times about how they're inferior and they will never be better than me ever in life. Yeah, it was wonderful. And
I hate to hear it. So, so for me is I I've been number one in one of my leagues. I've been number 4 in the other league. I lost one there, and so I was undefeated. And so I was kicking ass. It was like a 16% chance for this other team, and unfortunately, I put in Danny Dimes.
Yeah.
And, the projection showed he was going to be running. And so I ended up losing my undefeated team, and I'm losing that in the very last game on Monday Night Football. And then on the other team, I end up winning, which I should have lost that one.
Can we talk a little bit about Monday Night Football too? Because, Daniel Jones
is a hook.
Is a complete hooker.
No, he's a hoe.
Oh my God.
Just absolutely atrocious.
First of all, and then, everybody saw it, but that goal line play where he had the pick six, and you know what, and what's the kid named Witherspoon? Witherspoon. A star is born with that kid. Because he looked legit.
What he looks like is like the old school Legion of Boom.
Yeah, he
like reincarnated, like 2.0. Like we're about to bring this back.
Yeah,
I mean that's how he plays. He's intuitive. He's scrappy. He's scared of nobody, and he's a hitter.
Yes. Because you know what? Okay. Before I get on Daniel Jones and talk about the egregiousness of his play overall, I will just give a highlight to that kid, because what I noticed about him that is somewhat old school, it's like in that Steve Atwater, Ronnie Lott kind of lane.
The aggressiveness.
Yeah.
What it reminds me of?
CTE damn.
Is when you play.
Huh?
You were a similar player in terms of your similar ilk. You went for the contact.
Now listen,
hey, concussions be damned. You were going in.
Yes. Now listen. Mm-hmm. I went to Morehouse, so I don't think that I'm brain damaged. But there could be something that they find out later on in life. I don't know. But what I will say is, I come from a generation where we don't do this. Like I seen high school football being played. I got a kid who's a cheerleader, and she's wonderful at it. And I see her football team play, and these little kids, they look physically imposing, but they be going in there and grabbing. And I'm like, if you don't go in and smack somebody and hit them and grab, you're supposed to pick a quadrant on somebody's body, and the reason why you don't get injured is you attack them with force, and then you wrap up. So the force, it may sound painful, but it's not painful if you attack with speed and force and you wrap up. And I see a lot of these guys in the NFL are doing the same little sissy stuff that I see.
Because this younger generation is afraid of pain.
Man.
And understanding that pain is psychological, but pain is psychological.
Yeah.
And guess what? You can overcome any psychological effect. So if something hurts, it just hurts mentally.
Yes.
It doesn't mean, and something's not broken. It just, the pain of it.
Yes, you're not injured.
You can go past it, and they are not willing to go past it. But hey, we're not here to bash the younger generation.
And Lord knows, I'm not trying to, have any people go to therapy or beat me up because I'm saying, I wanted to injure the kids. I'm just saying, in order to play this gladiator sport, you're in the arena. You need to play it with a certain kind of aggression, and Witherspoon has that aggression.
Yeah, unequivocally does.
He had 6 tackles, he had 2 sacks, he had the pick 6, and it was all about him. I see it, I do it. I see it, I do it. Boom. And I'm all about it, and I'm going in 100%. You can't go in 85%. You can't go in 75%. This is one of the reasons why I was disgusted with the Raiders, is because I was so sick of seeing, and I'm going to talk about my team a little bit. They are always like first guy to the ball misses or misses the tackle. What is up with the coaches or whoever that just says, oh, it's okay for you to not grab and tackle somebody? I'm tired of this. You guys are getting paid millions of dollars. Tackle the motherfucker.
So real quick, I don't want to jump into
all those shit. I'm done now.
Let me just talk about my DFS.
Okay.
And the reason why it's so important to talk about my DFS is, number one, I was in number 1 for half of the day. I should have binked the contest in my DFS. I had Justin Fields because I had the wherewithal to know that this man's a bad mamma jamma and he was playing against a shitty ass team. So those of you that want to play a little DFS, bad mamma jammas against a shitty team equal DFS gold. But unfortunately, some of my auxiliary players didn't play well. I ended up falling down in the very last either last play or second to last play in the the Chargers Raiders game, fell down from 5th to 7th. But so with that being said, it is what it is. Justin Fields sat over here and made it happen for me. People thought he didn't have it in him, but guess what? He does. He does. He has a shitty ass coach that's not putting him in place. But here's what the thing is. This is what DFS gold is. An athlete, somebody who has some skill, playing against a team that has a shitty defense.
Yeah.
That's not rocket science here. I put him with his number one receiver on one card, and on the other card I put him with his tight end. Both of them hit. One got to 7th, one finished at 10th. So I made a little bit of money this week, but I had the opportunity to make big money. Now, I only sit over here and won 120%.
This is the plight of the degenerate gambler, man. You know, it's like
I'm not degenerate. I'm focused. This is study. This ain't I'm sitting over here like what my gut says.
No,
I'm sitting over here using brain.
Yeah, no, man. You dig deep and stay long, especially with this DFS. I know you do, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's a gamble. So, I respect the game, because you win more than you lose, and you know what? And I do it too. I just, sometimes I just go with emotions,
playing both running backs for the Miami.
Well, look here, bro. Okay, well, next time maybe I should email you my card.
I would encourage you to do that. You used to do that back in the day.
I know, because I
think you got high falutin.
Well, see, I don't want you over here telling me that I won because of you.
Even though I can promise you is that I will never say that, because I might see something that you use with your big brain.
Yeah.
And sit over and say, you know what, that makes a lot of sense.
All right, did we just have therapy already? I mean, that might have been something. I might be like, oh, okay.
Right at the bar. Okay. So with that, we got to get on out of here.
Yeah.
Hey, it was great having a drink with you.
Man, this was good.
Yeah,
as always,
But let's get ready for next week. I'm super excited. There's some great games. As a matter of fact, let me give y'all some fantasy tips. Those of you that are in season-long fantasy, make sure you go pick up Wan'Dale Robinson. The team has transitioned and he's back from injury, and they're starting to lean on him. H-Chan, who now goes by H-Chan instead of A-Chain. H-Chan has now pretty much superseded Mostert. Mostert still starts, but he gets more carries than Mostert does. So go get H-Chan. And this week, play if you can. If you have the wherewithal to sit over here and play the Kansas City Chiefs and the Minnesota Vikings game, play that game, because that game is going to be absolutely bonkers. Also, the Ravens. Lamar Jackson is going to crush the Pittsburgh Steelers this week.
He is.
So also play him. I have some teams with that.
I got a little DFS in me too.
Oh, please.
Okay, so what I would say is, out of this Thursday night game, if you those of you who play the Thursday night game, the sneaky guy to pick up on the Thursday night game is Samuels. Now, I know that he is a
nothing
slot
sexy
receiver.
about him. Nothing
sexy. He's like a gadget guy. But if you look at the lineup, if you look at the fact that Howe is probably going to score a lot, and the fact that if you read
who are they playing?
They're playing, I think, was it Chicago?
So Samuels is playing. Washington Commanders are playing the Bears.
The Bears. Yes. So the quarterback, which is Howe,
and
Samuels, to me, I think are easy buttons, because
over McLaurin.
Yes, because McLaurin, we know he will probably score, but he's going to be high in points. So Samuels is going to be less in cost. Because he's less in cost, there's an equal propensity for him to get into the end zone, and he will do it either running or passing, because they try to use him as a gadget guy. So pay attention to that.
And so with that being said, guess what? We're going to come back here next week, same time. I appreciate you.
All right, man.
I can't wait to have some drinks with you again.
Till next week.
Till next week.
All right. So tell them where we at.
Hey, please follow. Please share. Please like. And most importantly, subscribe at YouTube, IG. Come back and come see us. I know y'all are having fun with us. I know you're getting all this game. I know you sit over and appreciate all the emphasis that we put on this unbelievable game that we all share and love, which is football. So with that being said,
cheers.
Cheers.
Bang.